My name is Carol Flavin and I'm a railway modeller. At home, I have a layout that is called Edghay and Strines Railway. But during 2020, I was going to go out to demonstrations at exhibitions taking this waterfall diorama. Because that hasn't happened, I've made some videos. The first is about cliffs. Hello, my name's Carol Flavin. Some of you may recognise me as the team leader of the Locoladies, and we were the first female team to enter the Great Model Railway Challenge. We particularly were noted for our scenics. We had some rather spectacular cliffs with some crochet trees on the top, which attracted rather a lot of interest. After we were at Worley and showed our layout there, we were asked to go out to some demonstrations and take some items with us. So I made a diorama, which you've seen some photographs of already, of a crashing waterfall in some cliffs with a pool at the base. I have built one in a piece of countryside that's largely based around Yorkshire, which is where I live. It's certainly got the look of Yorkshire. There is a big pool at the base. There's big splashy waterfalls that run from a river at the top that goes underneath a rather nice stone bridge. And then there is a small area of countryside and trees and a variety of people who are looking and are sort of using the countryside. I'm now using the diorama on my own layout rather than taking it out to exhibitions. And I was taking lots of videos to show my grandchildren how I'd been making it when I realised there was a possibility that this might prove of interest to other people. So I realised I needed to make three. One of the cliffs and how I structured the cliffs, the second about the pool at the base, and the third about the waterfalls themselves. This is the first, and it's the one about the cliffs. I use insulating foam to make cliffs with, and I buy it in DIY stores. On the first level, I draw out a rough shape of what I want, cut it out using a very sharp knife. I take off all the silver and I build up the layers using Mod Podge glue or a similar type of glue. And I've also cut some little rocks out. The foam rocks that I carved out of scraps are now being stuck on using Mod Podge, starting at the bottom, working my way up. And once you've left them for probably 8 to 12 hours, they're absolutely rock solid, ready for the next stage, which is using the toilet paper. What you can see here are the layers of the cliff that I've built up using the different layers of foam insulation. On the right-hand side is the first layer of toilet paper that I've stuck down, and I'm going to show you how I do it. But what I've also showing is how the foam, as you cut it and as you create it, gives a fairly craggy look to start with, but it does leave lines. So what the toilet paper does is disguise the lines. If there's a gap that's far too big, then I tend to use a bit of filler or even a bit of the toilet paper rolled up to fill the gap. What I do then is I cover the surface with a glue. Now, I like Mod Podge because I'm not allergic to it. It doesn't make me cough, and I quite like the smell of it. But I have used Speed Bond. I've also used PVA. They will all work perfectly well. You cover it with a layer of the glue. And once you've done that, you take your piece of toilet paper. In this case, I've used 2 pieces of toilet paper. You don't need a huge amount. And you lay it on the top. It doesn't matter to start with whether or not it merges, and it also doesn't matter that this particular toilet paper is one that has a pattern embedded in the surface. Because what you do is you squeeze the toilet paper into place to give that craggy effect that you want. You can see the join, but that will disappear because I will now be thinking in terms of using a layer of glue that will cover it. I'm now using the brush to put a layer of glue on the top of the toilet paper I've just put in place. Making it fairly wet with this particular glue will allow me to manipulate the toilet paper into the shape that I want. It will also allow me to slightly blend that join across so that you don't see it on the finished article. And when it's dry, it will become very solid and hard, and it will allow me then to use various paints on it without spoiling it or making it soggy to get the effect that I want when I use the paints. And the first stage is to cover the whole thing with grey acrylic paint. I've covered the whole rock face with the toilet paper now, and it's dry, and I've covered it with grey paint. I'm now about to put a wash on it. Now this wash is designed to pick out the crevices and make it look like a real rock face. It's a mixture of grey, black and blue and green, and I just put it on quite wet with a brush and leave it to dry. Once I'd finished using the wash on the surfaces, I picked out the main areas that were more prominent with buff titanium and white, put a darker paint, which was a mix of indigo, black and grey, into all of the crevices, and I even flicked some of it onto the prominent areas of the rock faces. Then I stuck scatter on all of the flat surfaces where you would normally find grasses. And I did a mixed scatter, which made it look like moorland. I finished off the layout, or the model, or the diorama, whatever you want to call it, with a rather nice little plaster bridge that I've had for a while, which I stuck into place with filler and a bit of toilet paper, ready for me to paint it to match. This is the bridge after I'd weathered it, put people on it, put a tractor on it, and generally made it look as if it's been there for years. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and that the hints and the tips and the information that I've given you in it will be useful when you come to build the scenics on your own layout, possibly in a different way to the way that you thought you might want to do them. Thank you for watching this How I Did It video, and I do hope that the hints, tips and information contained in it have given you some new ideas for your own scenic model railway making. If that's the case, do please share it, like it, or tell anybody else about it that might be interested. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.